My name is Mike Conley, and this morning started with a sound that shouldn't exist in suburbia. Something sharp, metallic, echoing down the block like a baseball bat against a trash can. I live in a 2-bedroom rental in Glenfield, Indiana, sandwiched between a couple with 3 kids who always forget trash day and an old guy who waters his lawn twice a day like it's his religion. But today, everything felt wrong. The coffee didn't taste like anything, just hot and bitter. I caught my own face in the microwave door and thought, "You look tired, man. Real tired." But I'd slept. I know I had. I remember closing my eyes to the hum of my ceiling fan. Still, my hands shook. When I stepped outside to walk Daisy, my mutt, half lab, half God knows what, she bristled at something I couldn't see. She's an old dog, 12 now, and never pulls unless it's a rabbit or a squirrel. Today she didn't want to leave the porch. She sat down hard, nails scraping the concrete. I dragged her anyway, because the routine is everything. That's what my dad used to say. Routines keep you sane. Only today the routine felt like a punishment. We passed a military van parked at the end of the block. Big, dark green, way out of place next to minivans and SUVs covered in soccer stickers. 2 guys inside, no uniforms, just black shirts. They were staring at their phones, but their heads jerked up when we passed. I tried to look casual, but it's hard not to stare at something that feels wrong. Daisy whimpered. I didn't blame her. There was blood on the curb in front of the Miller's house. Not a lot, just a handful of dark drops that glistened like oil in the sun. It was too much for a scraped knee, not enough for an accident. No sign of a struggle. I thought about taking a photo to send to Melissa, my ex. She's a nurse at St. Anne's. But she's blocked me on everything except email, and I didn't want to sound like I was looking for excuses to talk. Still, I bent down to look closer. It was fresh. It hadn't dried yet. Daisy sniffed it and then growled, backing away. The school bus didn't come. Kids just gathered on corners, staring at their phones, looking lost. No parents outside, nobody yelling at them to hurry up. A woman jogged past in a bright pink shirt, but she kept glancing back over her shoulder like she was expecting someone. She dropped her keys in the street, didn't stop to pick them up, just kept going. I watched her until she disappeared behind the trees. I went back inside and turned on the news. Local station was glitching, so I flipped to CNN. They were talking about a viral incident in Chicago. No details, just footage of empty highways and emergency vehicles. A scrolling bar at the bottom of the screen said, "Stay inside, shelter in place, do not engage with strangers, showing sickness of sickness." My phone buzzed with an Amber Alert, but it disappeared before I could read it. I texted my brother Connor just to check in. No answer. Tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I figured he was sleeping off another late shift at the warehouse or ignoring me after our fight about Mom's meds. I opened my group chat with the guys, Jeff, Tony, and Steve. We usually start every day with dumb memes and complaints about work. Today, nothing, just silence. I posted a gif of a cat with a knife, typed, "Y'all alive?" No one even read it. That's when I felt the first pinch of fear. Not the someone broke a window fear, but the kind that sinks in and gets stuck between your ribs. I tried my mom's number. No answer. She always picks up, even if it's to yell at me about my cholesterol. I checked outside again. The street was empty except for the military van, still parked in the exact same spot. The 2 guys inside were gone. I thought about walking over, but Daisy wouldn't move. She growled, low in her throat, "Fur up." That's when I saw the Miller's front door standing wide open. I squinted, trying to see inside, but the house was too dark. A shadow moved past the window. I backed up, pulling Daisy inside, locking the door behind us. My heart thudded so loud I thought I could hear it echoing in the hallway. I grabbed the Louisville Slugger from my closet. Stupid maybe, but I needed something in my hands. I tried to call Melissa again, this time just for her voice. The call failed. My phone lost signal. Wi-Fi was spotty. The TV flickered, froze, and then a new warning came on, filling the whole screen. Emergency warning, stay inside, zombies outside. The letters glowed red. A siren blared, so loud I dropped my mug. Daisy started barking, lunging at the door, hackles raised. The siren faded, replaced by a robotic voice. This is not a drill. Do not go outside. Secure all windows and doors. I stood in the kitchen, clutching my phone, bat in the other hand. Daisy's leash tangled in my wrist. I looked at her, at the front door, at the world I thought I understood, and realized I was waiting for someone to tell me what to do. But there was no one. Not the news, not my family, not even my friends. Just me, Daisy, and a world that felt like it had slipped off its axis. I started pulling the couch in front of the door, closed all the blinds, barricaded the windows with chairs. Daisy followed me from room to room, never leaving my side. I listened for noises, footsteps, voices, anything. All I heard was the hum of the fridge and my own breathing. The blood on the curb, the empty van, the missing school bus, the broken news, the silence. None of it made sense, except for one thing. Something was out there, and I wasn't ready. The silence in my house was like a weight pressing on my chest. I sat on the living room floor, back against the couch I'd wedged under the doorknob. Daisy pacing so much her nails left marks on the fake wood. Every few seconds I'd check my phone, hoping maybe the group chat would show a little typing bubble. Nothing. Not from the guys, not from Connor, not from my mom, nobody. It was like the whole world went offline all at once. The news was stuck on that red warning banner. The emergency alert blared every 15 minutes, mechanical and cold. Stay inside, secure all doors. I tried the radio. Nothing but static and fragments of voices. Some preacher ranting about the end times. It was just me and Daisy, waiting for a sound that wasn't ours. The first real noise was a knock on my back door. Not even a knock, really. More like a scratching. I froze. Daisy stared, then let out a low, warning growl. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I crept to the back, moving slow, holding the bat like I was a kid again, sneaking past my dad's room after curfew. I peeked through the blinds. The Miller's teenager, Kyle, I think, was standing in my yard, head tilted, hands at his sides. He looked pale, not sick, just lost. I almost called out, but then he jerked forward and slammed his forehead into the glass, over and over, slow and hard. Daisy barked, but I yanked her back. Kyle didn't react to the noise. He just kept hitting his head, eyes open but blank. Blood started to trickle down, pooling on the sill. I backed away, feeling my knees shake. He finally stopped, head hanging, then shuffled away, dragging one leg like he'd twisted it. I didn't open the door. I just locked it tighter. I texted Melissa again. If you see this, I'm okay. Stay safe. She didn't answer. The group chat's still dead. I tried calling 911, but the call just clicked and died before it even rang. On the TV, news anchors disappeared, replaced by automated warnings. I kept thinking, this can't be real. But every time I looked outside, I saw something worse. My neighbor, Mrs. Aiden, stood in her garden, arms limp at her sides, head moving in jerky, twitchy circles like she was following something only she could see. Then she dropped to her knees and started clawing at the dirt, scraping her hands raw. There was no one left to help her. I wanted to scream at someone, yell for help, but I just stared at my phone. Finally, a text from Connor. Dude, don't go outside. That's all it said. No answer when I tried to call. It felt like a joke, except I could see Kyle's blood on my window, Mrs. Higgins digging up her lawn, and the empty street with the military van long gone. Around noon, the power cut out for about 5 minutes. In those minutes, all I could hear was my own heartbeat and Daisy whining. When the lights flickered back, the sirens started up again. Emergency warning, zombies outside. The word zombie sounded so stupid, like something from a Halloween special, but the blood on my window and the silence in the group chat made it feel like the only word that fit. I tried to keep busy, filling the tub with water, piling food into the hallway, grabbing every towel and sheet to plug the cracks in the windows. Daisy stuck to me, tail tucked. I kept thinking. Maybe Melissa would call, or my mom. Nothing. I left voicemails that probably wouldn't deliver. I put on my dad's old denim jacket, like that could help, and sat with Daisy on the floor, staring at the barricaded door. I kept the bat in my lap. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept asking myself if I should go look for someone. Connor, my mom, anyone. But every time I stood, Daisy whimpered and looked at me like she understood. If I left, she'd be alone. That's all it took to keep me inside. Just after sunset, I heard shouting down the street. I crawled to the window and peeked through the blinds. Two guys, Tony from the group chat and some neighbor I didn't know well, were running down the sidewalk, waving their arms, screaming for help. Behind them were three people. No, not people, not anymore. They were running, but the way they moved was wrong, stiff and broken. Tony stumbled, tried to turn, and the nearest one lunged at him. I saw teeth. Blood, Tony's face twisting in a way I'll never forget. The other neighbor tried to pull him free, but slipped on the curb and went down hard. The last thing I saw before I ducked away was someone biting into Tony's neck, shaking their head like a dog with a chew toy. The screams stopped fast. I sat on the floor with Daisy, hands over my ears, trying not to throw up. There was no going outside now. The word on the TV, the blood on the window, the silence in my phone, none of it felt real. But the screams, the scratching, the way the shadows moved at the corners of my eyes, those were real. Daisy curled up against me, trembling. I stroked her fur with hands that didn't feel like mine, listening to the sirens outside and the steady chant from the radio. Do not go outside. Do not go outside. Do not go outside. I closed my eyes and tried to pretend this was all a nightmare. But when I opened them, nothing had changed. The world outside was gone. All I could do was wait and pray that somehow, someone I loved would make it through the night. I barely slept that night. Every time my eyes closed, I heard someone screaming or the pounding of fists on glass. Daisy pressed against my leg, whining, her nose wet and cold against my palm. I must have dozed off at some point because I woke to sunlight slanting through the blinds and the steady, low moan of something moving outside. I didn't want to move, but I made myself check the windows, inching from room to room with the bat clutched tight, Daisy never more than a foot behind. What I saw made my skin crawl. People, but not people. Some shuffled, slow and crooked. Others slammed themselves into fences or cars with no sign of pain. I saw the mailman, still in uniform, dragging his feet down the street, blood streaking the front of his shirt. My neighbor's teenage son wandered in circles, bumping into the same mailbox over and over until he fell, then crawled forward on all fours. The world outside was over. I was trapped in a house that felt smaller with every hour, the air stale, food starting to look thin already. I kept trying my phone. Sometimes the emergency alert still played, sometimes nothing. The group chat was a graveyard. My last text to Connor just sat there, unread. That day passed in a blur of fear. I listened to the radio, every few minutes a different voice. The National Guard has declared Glenfield a red zone. If you're inside, stay there. Do not attempt to leave. Once I heard gunfire down the street, but I stayed away from the windows. I watched the back door, the cracks under the garage, anything that looked weak. Daisy wouldn't eat. She drank water but kept pacing, tail tucked, eyes never leaving the door. By evening I was jumpy, snapping at every sound. When the sun started to set, I heard footsteps on my porch. Not stumbling, measured, careful. I peeked through the peephole and saw Connor. My little brother, alive, hoodie streaked with mud, blood on his cheek, but his eyes bright and scared and human. I almost ripped the door open, but something made me stop. "Say something," I whispered through the crack. He started to cry. "Mike, it's me. Please, let me in. I'm not sick, I swear." I checked him through the glass for bites, for anything off. He kept pleading. Daisy barked, but not that wild, guttural bark she'd had for the others. This was different. I opened the door and dragged him inside, locking everything behind us. He collapsed against the wall, shaking. I hugged him so tight I thought I'd crush his ribs. He told me everything. How he'd seen people change, how he'd hidden in a gas station bathroom for a day, how the infected would smash their faces on the door but wouldn't break through, how he thought he was the only one left. I made him eat, forced him to drink water. For a minute, it felt like the world wasn't ending, like we were just kids again, hiding from Dad's temper or Mom's lectures about cleaning our rooms. But reality didn't let up, not for a second. After midnight, something started pounding at the back door. Not the slow, dumb way the infected moved. This was smart, angry. Connor and I stacked furniture against the door, grabbing knives from the kitchen, anything we could use. Daisy barked and snapped at the noise. I heard glass shatter in the garage, then heavy footsteps crunching through broken bottles. It was my neighbor Jeff, or what was left of him. His eyes were gone, white and leaking, but his mouth was grinning, open too wide, bloody and wet. He moved so fast I barely got the bat up before he was on me, hands clawing at my jacket. Connor stabbed him in the side, over and over, until Jeff stopped moving. The whole thing lasted seconds, but my heart pounded for hours after. I had to drag Jeff's body outside. I didn't want to touch him, but I couldn't leave him inside. My hands shook so bad I could barely lock the door after. Connor watched me, eyes huge and terrified, like he was seeing me for the first time. That's when it really hit. I'd just killed someone I'd shared beers with, fixed his car, borrowed his ladder, and I felt nothing except a wild electric urge to survive. There was no safe place now. Every sound outside felt closer, sharper. Daisy stuck to me, but even she was changed. Lean, tense, ready for anything. I barely spoke to Connor. We just waited, counted our food, listened to the gunshots in the distance. At one point the radio blared. "Martial law is now in effect. No evacuation planned." Then silence. We lasted another night, maybe two. I lost count. The world shrank to 4 rooms, the steady drip of water from a leaky tap, the rhythm of Daisy's breathing. Connor tried to keep me talking, tried to laugh, but it sounded wrong. We both knew things wouldn't get better. One morning we woke to smoke on the horizon. The house 3 doors down burned, people screaming inside, no one coming to help. A family tried to run, but got tackled at the end of the block. The last thing I saw was a mother clutching her baby, blood in her teeth. Eventually we ran out of food and choices. I packed a bag, loaded Daisy's leash, handed Connor a knife. I looked at the house, at the hole in the wall, the bloodstains, the photos on the fridge of a world that was gone. We left as the sun came up, slipping out the back, ducking behind fences and burned-out cars. The streets were different now. The infected wandered, but so did others. People with guns, with empty eyes, searching for anything left to take. We kept moving. Didn't talk much. Didn't hope. Just survived. I'd learned to stop looking for rescue. I learned the rules were gone. I learned that who you protect and who you let go, that's all you have left. The last thing I remember from that house, Daisy looking back at the front door, whining like she wanted to stay. But we couldn't. Not anymore. Not in a world where the warning was true. and the monsters outside wore the faces of people we loved.